It's Ash from Super Videos, back for another video for The Last of Us on HBO. We finally have another teaser trailer for The Last of Us. This was released today during Last of Us Day. In this trailer, we actually have lots of great and intriguing details that I will be talking about. A lot of pretty awesome Easter eggs and references to the video game, which we're going to be breaking down. And all around, a pretty solid trailer that gets me super hyped for The Last of Us. So stay tuned, we'll be right back to break it all down. Alright, as always, before we dive into it, smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. With that said, let's get right into it. So this trailer actually starts with this pretty awesome shot of Joel Miller, who of course will be played by Pedro Pascal. He's walking in the streets of the safe zone, also known as the quarantine zone. This is obviously from the beginning of the video game. We also do see a military vehicle approaching from a distance. And then we have a sign that says curfew hours, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Anyone on the streets without federal approval is subject to immediate arrest. So this is obviously part of what the Fedra set up at the safe zone or the quarantine zone, which matches the source material exactly. We have another sign that reads, report signs of cordyceps infection, coughing, slurred speech, muscle spasm, mood change, safety begins with you. And that's a message coming from the Fedra. We have a few people painting over some graffiti, some political messages on the walls from the Fireflies. Of course, the Fireflies are another big organization or group that are very much a part of The Last of Us story from the beginning to the end. And we have a sign of them right away in the trailer. So that's pretty awesome. Joel Miller, we obviously see the watch and the crack on the watch, which again matches the source material. The attention to details are just amazing. Not that this really needed much attention to detail because the watch is an important part of who Joel is. So they had to get that right. But aside from this, there's other great stuff that just shows you how much they paid attention to the details. And then we see Joel's face right here. I'm assuming that he's sobbing here or he's sad because of what happened to his daughter. Obviously, again, something that was directly from the source material, with Joel losing Sarah, his daughter, at the beginning of the outbreak, or even before the outbreak, I should say. And then we have this shot of a graffiti on the wall which says, when you're lost in the darkness. Again, another pretty big reference to the Fireflies, because the next part of that is, look for the Fireflies. So that's a graffiti message coming directly from the Fireflies to invite people in to join them. And obviously we do see Bella Ramsey as Ellie reading the message on the wall, so that's pretty awesome. And then we have this shot of Ellie chained to the wall. That is most definitely Ellie's shoes, so we know that this is Ellie. Now the question is, when does this happen? Does this even happen in the video game? I think it does. I think this is from the part in the story where Ellie is actually captured by David and his men. I could be wrong, but that's just how I read into this particular scene. And then we have Ellie again looking at something through some sort of glass or window. And then we have this pretty awesome shot of the entrance to the quarantine zone with a sign above the gate where it says welcome. Pretty awesome. And then we have a Fedra soldier with a huge light. He's obviously one of the guards near the entrance of the safe zone. That's pretty awesome stuff. And then we have this pretty cool shot of Joel, Ellie, and Tess, Anna Torv, who of course plays Tess, in some sort of a tunnel or pipe. Not exactly sure what, but this is pretty cool. And they're obviously hiding from clickers or the infected or maybe even shamblers. But this is obviously near the beginning of the game when Tess is still around. We will see another big reference to Tess in this trailer, which we're going to come to. But the next shot is just the title card that reads a new HBO original series. And then we have this pretty awesome, super cool looking shot of the city. Joel and Ellie at the bottom near the center, walking in the middle of the street. This is also pretty cool because visually it's like it's the video game. You know what I mean? It's that close to the video game that you think it's the video game. So that's pretty awesome. There actually was a lot of post-production work that went into this. And the reason why I know this is because they actually filmed a lot of The Last of Us in my city, Calgary. And I know exactly where this is, where they filmed. And it looks nothing like this. The only two things that match are the brick buildings on the sides. And even they look different because in real life they didn't have most of the vines that you see right here. So a lot of post-production work went into this to make it look like this. And of course the tall building that you see in the distance is not actually there in real life. So that's also post-production work. So that's pretty cool. Now the other thing is when I saw this, it reminded me of Seattle from The Last of Us Part 2, but this is not in Seattle. How do I know this? Well, we've been covering a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, and I can tell you by proof that this is actually supposed to be Kansas City. And it's actually from the story in the game where Joel and Ellie are in Pittsburgh. So they changed Pittsburgh to Kansas City. And then we have this shot of someone, they're looking at some sort of military vehicle with a lot of soldiers around it. Now again, having followed the behind the scenes and kind of going to the places where they film, I also know exactly where this is in the monitors, and I know what the story is going to be for that. If you want to know, check out some of my other videos. I don't want to reveal it here because it's sort of a spoiler or borderline a spoiler, but it's basically gonna fill in the gaps and tell you a story that wasn't in the video game about how the Fedra base collapsed and how a group known as the Hunters took over the Fedra base in Pittsburgh in the video game, but of course in the TV adaptation it'll be Kansas City. And then the next shot we have is this pretty awesome shot of some skeletons and skulls on the ground. This scene is pretty cinematic. We also do see Joel and Ellie in the background, so that's pretty cool. And then we have this shot of what looks to be an infected in some sort of a room, which is pretty cool. Now this looks like it could be from the museum story in the video game. I could be wrong, but this looks like it's the museum story. And obviously we did see a tease at the museum in the first picture that they released, or I should say the second one, where Joel and Ellie were hiding behind a glass case with a clicker in the background. So this could be that. And obviously this could be an infected or a clicker, most likely a clicker, but it could be an infected. And then we have this shot of Joel, Ellie, and Tess hiding behind a glass case of some sort. Again, this might be in the museum as well. We have that here as well, so that's pretty cool. And then they're watching a clicker in the background. This actually gave me chills. And something else that was like directly from the video game. It's like I was watching a cutscene from the video game, which was cool. And then we have Joel asking Ellie to be quiet, so that's pretty cool. And then we have another title card that says, from the creator of the award-winning miniseries Chernobyl, Craig Mazin. We obviously know that the showrunner or one of the main writers for the show is Craig Mazin, so that's pretty awesome. We do know that Neil Druckmann, who is the creator of The Last of Us video game, is also involved, so that's cool as well. We also do know that the voices of Joel and Ellie from the video game will be in the TV show as well, but we don't know what role they're gonna play. The next shot we have is this shot of Joel and Ellie on a bridge in the middle of a snowstorm. Now this is very interesting because it raises the question of, are they changing a part of the story from the video game? Because in the video game, in the winter, we didn't see Joel. We only saw Ellie. The reason for that is because Joel was injured. So the question is, are they changing that and having Joel and Ellie go through the winter period without Joel being injured to kind of be taken away from that story? Now, I do have another video on this topic, which I will be posting later this week. So if you're interested in that, definitely check it out. And then we have this shot of Joel. And then we have Ellie here. She's crying. So that's very interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how much of Ellie's charisma and emotions Bella Ramsey is going to be able to bring to the screen. I mean, I have hopes, but at the same time, it's really difficult to say because I haven't really seen the actress in anything else, and also we've kind of experienced Ellie through the voice of Ashley Johnson and that face in the video game, so it's going to be really difficult for us to kind of know what we're getting into and what we can expect until we see it. Same goes with Pedro Pascal and Joel. It's going to be difficult to see how it's going to play out and how much they're going to be able to bring that character to the screen until we get to it. And then we have this pretty awesome shot of Marlene, another major character from the video game, and another person who could be just about anyone. It's not an important character from the game. Marlene being portrayed by Merle Dandridge, who's actually the voice of Marlene in the game. So that's kind of an interesting fact as well. And then we have this super cool scene with, you guessed it right, Ellie and Riley. This is of course from the Last of Us Left Behind DLC, and it's the story that gives us a backstory for Ellie, but at the same time fills in the gap as far as how Ellie helped Joel when he was injured during the winter time. But this is obviously directly from the video game. It's the scene where Joel and Ellie are on a merry-go-round in a mall. So this is directly from the game. So that's cool. And then we see Ellie here. And of course we see Riley here portrayed by Storm Reed. The next shot we have is another title card that reads, "And the acclaimed video game creator Neil Druckmann." And then we have this shot, which is actually a scene from the beginning of the game where Joel is trying to save his daughter. So we have Joel and his daughter Sarah here, Sarah being portrayed by Nico Parker. And then we have this scene of the two of them in the middle of the small town that they live in. And then they see a bunch of people on the ground, a bunch of dead bodies, and then one of them gets up. Obviously that's gonna be an infected that's most likely gonna attack them. And then we have this pretty interesting shot of someone shooting down a bunch of Fedra soldiers, and then we see Tess on the side looking at them, so that's pretty cool. This is obviously in the quarantine zone. Obviously this is also from the beginning of the game where the Fedra are attacked at the quarantine zone, so that's pretty cool. And then in the voiceover we have someone saying, and I think it's Tess, but I could be wrong, "This is your chance, our best shot." I don't know why the shot is missing in the subtitles. And obviously this is referring to the mission that Joel is going to be a part of, which is smuggling Ellie out of the city, out of the quarantine zone. And then we have this shot of Joel with a sniper rifle in hand. The shot that we saw from before is actually not connected, or I don't think it's connected to this. I don't think Joel is shooting down the Fedra soldiers, but I could be wrong. But then we have this shot of Tess as well. This connects to the previous one that we looked at with the Fedra soldiers. And then we have this shot of Joel and Sarah. They're watching a burning car. And then we do see Tommy as well looking at them. Tommy, of course, is Joel's brother, and it's going to be portrayed by Gabriel Luna. He might look a bit different than his video game counterpart, but it's definitely Tommy. This is actually probably the crash that happens in the video game at the beginning of the story, and it's what's going to lead to that huge scene with Joel and his daughter Sarah. And then we have this pretty cool shot of, I think, Joel with his hands up in some sort of a pit, and then none other than Bill, portrayed by Nick Offerman, pointing a shotgun at his face. So that's pretty cool, and again, something that's directly from the video game. It's when Joel and Ellie visit Bill's town. And we have this pretty awesome shot of Joel beating the absolute shit out of someone, and we do see right away who he's actually beating up. He's beating up a Fedra soldier. This is also a scene that's directly from the video game, It's right before the big reveal about Ellie. In the voiceover, we have Tess, I think, again saying, "You keep her alive." So they're obviously talking about Ellie. And then we have this shot of two people holding hands. Not sure who they are, but it's probably Tess and Joel, but I could be wrong about that. It might be a flashback with Joel and his actual wife. We don't know if that's going to happen or not because it didn't happen in the video game, but it could be a direction they go. And then we have this shot of Ellie crawling away, trying to get to safety. And then this pretty interesting shot of someone with a bunch of soldiers around her in the middle of a city of some sort. Again, being in the city where they filmed this, I know exactly where this is, where they filmed, but I don't exactly know who she is. But the soldiers around her are hunters. So she might be their leader or one of their leaders, so that's pretty awesome. And then we have this shot of Joel and Tommy, and of course, probably Sarah in the back. They're trying to get away from the city in the early days of the outbreak. This is again directly from the video game. And then we have this military vehicle with the word "run" in front of it. And we do see some soldiers in the background. These are again the hunters and not the Fedra. And then we have another shot of the truck that's driving away from all of the infected approaching. And this is of course Joel, Tommy, and Sarah in the truck. And there's actually an explosion that happens in the background, which I don't actually have a screen cap for. And then we have this pretty cool shot of an infected running towards some sort of a soldier, maybe a Fedra soldier, maybe a hunter. And then we have another shot of a soldier on fire. And then we have this pretty awesome shot of some people on horseback. They're in the middle of the forest or wooded area. Now, this again is a big change from the video game because we are actually gonna see Jackson in season 1 of the HBO adaptation of The Last of Us. Again, I know this because of some information I have based on following the behind the scenes. So that's a big change from the video game because the Jackson story doesn't come in until part 2, but they're bringing it in a lot earlier in the TV adaptation. And this is obviously Joel, Ellie, and maybe Tommy and others. And then we have this shot of Ellie and two other people running away from something. This is actually Sam, Henry, and Ellie. Sam and Henry being two other big characters from the video game. And then we have this pretty awesome shot of Ellie with a gun in hand shooting at whatever is approaching them. Maybe an infected, maybe a clicker, maybe a human threat. And then we have another flashback of Joel and his daughter Sarah. And then we have another shot of some sort of an explosion that happens. A scene of someone dropping lighter. And then we have this shot of some sort of a big building with huge entrance doors, and there's a bunch of infected running inside, and we actually see Tess looking at them. This is actually the scene from the video game where Joel, Ellie, and Tess are in the Capitol building. It's the scene where Tess actually reveals that she's been bit, and she basically sacrifices herself to allow Joel and Ellie to get away and survive. So this is directly from the video game. And then we have this shot of Joel and Ellie involved in some sort of a crash. This is probably the story in the game where Joel and Ellie are ambushed by a group. This shot of Joel looking at Ellie, he's obviously concerned. And then we see Ellie has some bruises and some cuts on her face, so it looks like she was involved in some sort of an accident and she's bleeding, hence why Joel was concerned. If you look at the background, it looks like this is also the winter story because we do see snow in the ground in the background. And then we have this super awesome, fantastic shot of a clicker, and then we have this pretty cool shot of Ellie, and then Joel walks right beside her. They kind of look at each other. This is, I think, supposed to be like a comedic scene or a lighter scene based on what Joel looks like here. But in the voiceover, I think Tommy says, "Save who you can." And I'm assuming that he's talking to his brother Joel. And then we have this pretty cool shot of Joel and Ellie on a horse. We see The Last of Us HBO original title showing up. And then the reveal when it's going to air, which is 2023. which we already knew about. But that's pretty much it for my trailer breakdown. I hope you enjoyed. This was a bit longer than I wanted to, but I really dug deep into it and broke it all down in a way I think not a lot of people do, so I hope you enjoyed. But with that said, if you enjoyed this, smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.